It's because my computer's broken, so I had to get a headset.
What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 202, and we are talking feeding more people with Robin Clemmons of Daystar Life Center. Robin, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great.
All right, this channel, Best Served Young, you've seen over the last month. Very excited about this. So much important work happening with school gardens, lunch programs, youth education. And we've been really highlighting the people that are doing the work and making it happen, because we believe that sharing people's stories and communicating is the way to continue to evolve, to connect the dots, to amplify these good works. So Robin is a perfect guest for us. Robin, you are the volunteer gardener in residence at the Daystar Life Center, and you are in St. Petersburg, Florida. Tell everybody, and what's the work that's happening at the Daystar Life Center?
Okay, so Daystar is a social services agency, and they're located in South St. Pete, which is a food desert. Not only a food desert, it's also what's called a services desert. So it has no bank, no library, no drugstore, no hospital, no groceries. So it's all those things that Daystar can provide to the community. And this is actually a new location. They've only been there a year, and they chose this location on purpose so that they would be like a beacon in that neighborhood where people could come and get all these things they need. Because it's really like in Pinellas County of Florida, this has one of the worst health outcomes of the county. And so that doesn't just mean food. Health is all kinds of things. It's help with your rent. It's help with utilities. It's keeping you in your home. It's keeping you fed, clothed, having access to a bank. I mean, there's just so many things.
Things we take for granted.
Exactly. And transportation, there's a lot of transportation disadvantaged people. And then the bus systems are not so great in St. Pete. We don't have a great public transportation system like you do in Denver, which would be.
Okay, so you got a lot of work to do. This makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Let's go to your why a little bit. Take us back. How do you end up working with the Daystar Life Center? How does that come about?
So I was a preschool teacher for the past 15 years, and as a volunteer, I volunteered in community gardens, learning how to grow vegetables. And the gardens that I worked in, Ray Wunderlich was the farmer, and he started this whole idea of that food pantries really need fresh, nutrient-dense food, because if people are going to come there and they may only get one good, healthy meal or one bag of fruits and vegetables to take home, that it needed to be as nutrient-dense as possible. So he started growing things like kale, collards, mustard greens, all the dark leafy greens, and would donate them to food pantries. And so that's how I met Jane Walker, who's the director at Daystar. And I was just a garden volunteer while also being a preschool teacher and learning how to do all this. And in my school with my students, we started gardening because I started noticing the kids really I was teaching 3-year-olds. They had no idea where food was coming from. And it wasn't, and I was at a private school. So these are mostly affluent kids who have access to food, but they were getting access to healthy food. But their lunches, they were getting those little pouches that have like the mushed up fruits and vegetables. And I'd ask them, like, what do you have for lunch? And they're like, oh, show me a pouch. And they're like, oh, purple. I'm like,
yeah, no wonder they don't like
what is it? And so they didn't even really know what, a carrot looks like. And so, like you've said, you give a kid a vegetable, you change their life. So we just started gardening with the kids.
Look at you dropping in one of our taglines.
Yeah, I love it because I would say the same thing. Like, you pull, they see it, they want to eat it, and they were pulling celery out of so we started planting vegetables in the playground. So it was somewhere that we went every day on purpose. So it wasn't like we had to make an effort to get to the garden. So it was on the playground. So every day when we went out to the playground, they would see the vegetables they had planted. So if they planted them, then they want to eat them. So they're just pulling celery right out of the garden, eating it on the playground, and that really made me want to do more of that, because these were kids who have benefits and can get healthy food, but even they didn't know what it looks like. And just seeing how much it could change for those kids, then I just really became more passionate about the idea that there's so many people in our community that don't have access to anything like that and really need it. So I really just got more interested in that. And so Daystar opened this new facility a year ago, And Jane had always had a dream of having a garden on site. So when they built this new facility, the architect, who I happen to know, he's my husband. He designed a garden,
Perfect.
and I
How
got to put a little
perfect is
input in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So give him a
who you
little.
know more than what you know a lot of the time, right?
Exactly. And this time it was, because I was like, but then Jane, she totally trusted me that I could do this, and I'd never done a whole garden by myself. And so the architects and all their employees, they came and helped me build the actual beds the first day. And then after that, we've just been growing stuff. It's been almost a year, and we're up to 900 pounds, which doesn't sound like a lot of food. So we're supplementing. What we grow is supplementing what they give out in the food pantry. But it's really nice to have kids can come out and see, kids can be there, kids and adults. And it's just it's nice for people to be able to see. And like you said, like carrots are like the showstopper for everybody. If you can get even an adult to pulling something out of the ground, you know, and then be like, oh my God, you know, and they want to eat it right away. I'm like, yeah, you know, it's organic, there's no pesticides, so we don't wash anything off. You just grab it and eat it. And it really helps people get more connected to the idea. Well, and that's part of one of our goals, is that if we're showing this example, we're right there in the middle of that food desert where there's not a lot of great, you know, people might not have a yard, or they might just have a balcony, but we're showing them that in containers you could grow collard greens and eat off those collard greens for months, the same plant. You don't pull it up, you just pull the leaves. Carrots, okay, you got to replant those. But trying to give people the idea that if they can see it right here in their neighborhood, then they'll believe that they can do it too. And they can come and get lessons and help me, and we can show them how to do it, or give them help. I give compost away, I give seedlings away. So it's all just trying to give people hope and an idea that you can do it no matter where you live. And like, we're under the overpass, like there's an interstate right there, an overpass, it's noisy, but now there's like dragonflies and lizards and snakes, and like there was nothing there. And in a year, it's completely changed. It is. It's so cool. Yeah. So you can change anything.
Yes, I could not agree with more with everything that you're saying. There's a couple things that I think are interesting that are important. One is there's like two sides of this equation. People have the utmost respect for how simple it is to taste a vegetable like a carrot from the ground, and that pure expression of that ingredient and the process. And on the flip side, they get the utmost respect for the amount of work that it takes when what you're talking about. It may be simple and easy to consume that and feel the connection that you have now to the earth, to that plant. It's more delicious than whatever's in that pouch they were eating before.
They don't even know what's in the pouch.
Right, exactly. So I think that's purple. They just knew that it was purple at the end. So I think that's an important thing. There's on both sides, the simple aspect of it and the complexity of, wow, there's so much work. Because then people even of affluent status are saying, no wonder these, who is it? Somebody on the show said, that's why these cherries are so expensive. I think that was Amanda McCabe said that. Like, that's why it's so expensive. And people go, well, now I'm willing to pay for that ingredient. So that I thought was one thing. The other thing I wanted to say that I think is important for people to really pay attention to is when you're talking about the affluent kids and then those families that are underserved, because you're making it cool and delicious to eat those carrots, now you're taking away some of the stigma, right? Because even in lunch programs, school programs, community gardens, the people that are taking that must be in need, and I don't need that, so I don't want any part of that. Right. Yet if it's just the best and most delicious and the cool thing that all the other kids are doing, well, then everybody's a part of it, and it completely erases that stigma. So play on that a little bit. I'm interested because that was something that struck me with what you said. Everybody, the kids that are affluent and any of the families that are in need are on the same playing field. Why has that been important to your work?
Well, I would like them to be on the same playing field is the main thing. So like in a food pantry, a lot of what people think of in food pantries is that you're just getting canned foods or boxed foods, or just the stuff that other people are clearing out of their cabinet that they don't really want. Well, I wanted this to be like, and at community gardens where I volunteered, the volunteers would get the best stuff too. So like the volunteers got to take the carrots and the beets home, and then we take all the leafy greens to the pantry because that's the most nutrient dense, but that's not the
Right.
most exciting. That's not the most interesting. You know, like people want tomatoes and carrots and beets.
Uh-huh.
And so I really want to grow like the best stuff and give all the best stuff just right to the food pantry, to the people who might never get a chance to try. You know, if you're on food stamps, like I just don't even know how low it is in Colorado, but the amount of money that you get on food stamps is so low. There's no way you're going to be buying organic vegetables,
Right.
much less even maybe not even fresh veg and non-organic, because fresh food is expensive. But so I wanted them to feel the love, like give the best stuff
Yeah.
so they can try it and see. And when you get a taste for it, you know, when you taste a fresh carrot, then it's like, you know, then you realize, hey, this is worth my money, or this is worth, well, like food pantries now are not all canned goods. Daystar and lots of other food pantries provide fresh produce, fresh meat, fresh vegetables, and they do it in a choice fashion now. So they don't just, they used to just give everyone a bag with the same stuff in it. And
Gotcha.
now all these food pantries are changing their model to be set it up like a grocery and give people more dignity, that they can walk through and, you know, you're given a limit or whatever, take 3 things from this shelf, 2 things from here,
Yeah.
but they get to be your choice, what you like, what your family likes, or your food allergies, or your cultural preferences. So to be able to provide all these choices and different things that they, or things that are expensive, that I particularly know are expensive in the grocery, to be able to grow those things and give it to them feels even better, because you know they can get iceberg lettuce everywhere. So let's give them some arugula and let's try, you know, let them try some different things. So I grow things that I know people like collard greens, and then and convince them that, yeah, like, see, these taste good. Now try the kale. Maybe you'll like kale, or maybe you'll like Swiss chard, because you can cook it the same way that you cook your collards, and
Yes.
then get them to try something different and know that, you know, there's a lot of options. And I want to give them to them. So then everybody can have those, because the kids that I was teaching, the affluent kids, I could tell them, you know, we could grow things and then they could tell their parents, and, oh, I loved Swiss chard, then their parents would go buy it. But that's not necessarily going to happen unless you've got the finances to be able to do that. So
Yeah, let's stay with that right there. What you just said, I think, is an important dynamic. We're kind of uplining the education. The kids are educating the parents a lot in
exactly.
these situations. And kids are the best salespeople in the world. We know the candy and sugar industry and the toy industry has capitalized on that forever. I feel like
Right.
it's time for the fresh vegetable categories and companies
Right.
and growers to start capitalize on that. You get a kid hooked on
Exactly.
collard greens, game changer for the family, what happens in that household. And so I think that's important. So let's talk about that a little bit. The kids' ability to be excited about an ingredient, have the opportunity, like there's those gateway vegetables. It's the cucumber, it's the tomato, it's the carrot, the radish, some of those things that are simpler to
Right.
grow and a little more
Right.
ubiquitously known, I
Yep.
think. But what you're talking about of getting into chards and mustard greens and things like
Yep.
that are a little more unique. So let's talk about that. The ingredients that you've really focused on sounds like diversity. They need to try as many
Yeah.
things as possible to find that sweet spot for them. Then let's go into when you see the kids have that aha moment, what's your goal? Are you empowering them to kind of talk to their parents about it? Are you bringing parents into the educational system? Talk about that a little bit, parents and
Right.
kids in that
Okay.
system.
Well, so we have 2 things going on. The garden is on purpose right in front of the doors. So as people are waiting, and the lobby is all glass windows. So pre-COVID, they were waiting inside in the lobby and could see the garden while they're waiting for their turn. And they could come outside, and a lot of times it's a long wait. So sometimes kids are antsy. So the whole idea was that families, parents that are there with their young children could walk through the garden. I'm right there. I can talk to them. They can taste things. They can smell things, lots of herbs so that they get the smells. And I've got a lot of native plants, native flowers, so they can see the pollinators and get to see like bees and butterflies and all these flowers that grow naturally. So it's like a calming and enticing place to be, instead of where it's a stressful place usually. And you know, parents are under a lot of stress when they're there. But a lot of times it's the parents who are like, oh, no, I don't, you know, don't go in there. And I'm like, no, really, it's fine. Come on in, you know, and then get the kids, and the kids will try anything. You'll be like, oh, here, you want to try this? And I'll take a bite. And then of course they'll take a bite. And the parents are like, hey, wait, I don't know. But then their 3-year-old eats it. And then they're like, the child will go to their mom and be like, here, try some, have a bite, and then they have to because their kids going like, here, come on, it's good. So there's that. And now actually since COVID, it's actually been a kind of a blessing that we can't go inside the building, so people have to wait outside. And so they're waiting on the sidewalk. They've made a line along the sidewalk that borders the garden. So people are even closer to it and standing right there in it almost while they wait for their turn. So they ask me and see things growing and they're like, oh, what is that? Like okra is really tall and the flowers look like a hibiscus and
Yes,
the okra grows straight up. And so many people are like, I eat that every day. And I had no idea that's how it grows. And so it's been really great. So the adults are getting more involved with it just because they've had to stand outside in it right now. But we also do field trips with schools. And in that way, we're hitting the kids. The parents aren't with them, but the classes will come. And mostly those have been middle school kids. And this was obviously last year before COVID. But they'd come and I'd give them a tour of like compost, how we make compost, where we take the food scraps from the pantry, make the compost. They see all the maggots and all the magic and the mycelium, and then come in the garden and then they get to taste herbs. And we do things like to see if they can guess, like, oh, have you ever had this before? Or what do you think? Like give them some basil and see if they can figure out, oh, I've had this before. What is it in? Or mint, or, so you get them to try things like that, or flowers, like to eat a broccoli flower. Did you know you could eat flowers? Or to eat a nasturtium. Did you know you could eat flowers? Just get them to eat the flowers and then send them home with some stuff. And then they go home and tell their parents. And and that's how I'm trying to get the parents, is like, if the kids come home and be like, you can eat broccoli flowers. Did you know that? Or
yes.
And they taste just like broccoli, but you're eating these little yellow flowers, and then they think it's cool.
Something I want to hover on for a second, because this is the first time it's really clicked for me. The design aspect of the garden being so fundamental and crucial to the way that you're able to then weave that into this kind of the natural flow of things, having it right there positioned. Whoever was the architect designer, very smart.
He was very smart.
Very smart. So I like that, because that like really puts it front and center. It makes it a showcase piece. It also then is not this thing in the back, back nine of the building, so to speak. And so it's forefront. So also there's a little more buy-in across everybody within the staff to be like, let's keep that beautiful, because it represents you in a very different way than kind of being the offshoot thing that only Robin messes with in the back, and it doesn't really matter. Also, gardens, food growing has energy. Like it really, really does. You feel the energy in there. Absolutely. And so the fact that people are lining up, you can't help. If you're standing next to that garden, it is really hard to be on your phone like this. That garden is calling to you.
Calling you. Yep.
And so I think that's a great opportunity also for you. Then that's absolutely, it sounds like you take the opportunity to hover around the garden and look for people that are making heavy eye contact with that okra. And that's opportunity to communicate, to convert somebody. So
try something fresh. Yes.
That feels like you very much understand marketing. Now I want to take a second and talk about that is marketing. Marketing is giving people information that they need, identifying who needs the information and giving that. Advertising is selling. It's a little different. But marketing is finding that story, who needs to hear it, and giving it to them. That's what you're doing. You're doing it very innately, clearly. Clearly you don't know that this is a marketing strategy.
Nope.
So when you're doing that though, what are you looking for? Are you reading people's body language? Do you see and feel when people are like nodding their head saying, yeah, and you realize they don't care? Or how do you go about that interaction? Because I think that's a huge opportunity that people maybe are not recognizing and not taking advantage of, especially to your point. If your garden is outside and people have to spend more time outside, how do you create more opportunities for that storytelling, for that education?
Yeah. So usually it's pretty obvious, because it's people talk to me that are interested, and I hear all kinds of great stories of, oh, my grandma used to grow okra, or my dad grew the best tomatoes, or, oh, you know what you need to do? You need to be doing this, or, the greatest trick. And so I let them tell me, and I don't know all these tricks. So I'm happy to hear, well, okay, tell me, what do I need to do? How do I? And then they ask, some of them will they just show that they're interested or that they grew up like that. And a lot of times it's just they want to tell me a story about their life or their garden or what they remember or what they like. And I love to hear those stories. So I let them tell me those stories, and then I'll say, well, hey, do you want some of the okra today? Or would you like to try, have you ever had Swiss chard? And so I bring them leaves of one or two things, just hand them things to taste and to show them that, here, try this. And they're like, oh, no, I don't. And I'm like, really? Like you just tell them it's fine. That's what it's here for. I'm growing it for you. So try it, and then if you like it, you can come back next week and the kinds of things you like. So it's actually been working better in a way to be outside, because when I harvest things and then I bring them up to a table and I have to bag them, which I hate now. I have to put it all in plastic bags, but it used to be but at least I can stand there and say like, oh, here you go. Here's the okra from today. And these are eggplant. And people are like, what are those? Because the eggplant I'm growing is smaller and it's got stripes. It's purple and white stripes. And I'm like, yeah, it's eggplant. I was like, it's a little milder. You just cook it this way or whatever. So actually having people be in line and me still be there, I do interact with people more. And I think I convince more people. They're like, well, I don't know how to cook it. So then I just tell them, oh, it's so easy. You just do this. And so one of my goals is to print out recipe cards so that now, because I can't always be right there when I give it away, to include recipe cards. And because not everybody can choose for themselves anymore because of COVID, we have to pre-bag stuff. But it's kind of like a CSA now. I feel like you could put a bag of vegetables together, and if I put a sheet in there to identify what's in your bag, and here's a couple recipes, and then when people get it home, it'll be like the surprise veggie bag, and who knows what's going to be in there.
That's another. Just you are eliminating no's and excuses, right?
Yeah. Right.
I've never had that. No, I think that's weird. No, I had it one time and it wasn't good. Because people had horribly boiled Brussels sprouts for a whole generation. And they think that anything that's remotely close to that, there's a lot of that where they just had unsalted steamed broccoli. Why would I want to eat a broccoli flower? Broccoli is gross. And so you're having to push back against that. So you are building in mechanisms and tools and resources and education to kind of circumvent all the no's, all the excuses, and move them to yes. And that is a huge and powerful tool in getting that message across. And so the cooking aspect of it, I want to kind of finish with this.
Yeah.
And so much of our audience is chefs and culinary community and restaurant people, that are so focused on the food side of it. The cooking, what are some of the stories I'm sure you hear all the time? We did this amazing dish, or we made our own gumbo with the okra that you gave us. We didn't even know that okra was actually a thickening agent for like the way that the texture of gumbo, like all of these things, that are kind of like unknowns that people just take for granted. And, in the South with dishes like okra being an absolute staple, what are some of the stories that you hear coming back where somebody said, I cooked this dish, and you just know it changed everything. It changed everything for them.
Mostly it's things like they think you can only eat okra deep fried in cornbread. In cornmeal and then deep fried. I mean, and bacon.
I guess, which is great.
That way, but we're talking health outcomes here too, right? We have lots of diabetic people, so we're like, no. So I've had people come back about the eggplant and the okra where they just are slicing it and grilling it right on the grill, and with nothing, and telling me like that they're just amazed at the flavor of just the vegetable. That was it. They put nothing on it, just grilled it, and how much taste it has and how good it is. And you didn't need the bacon fat, didn't need the cornmeal, didn't need anything. So that's pretty cool. And we do have this great demonstration kitchen in the building. Nice. So hopefully when things get back to normal, we'll be able to, or to the new normal, we'll be able to go back to cooking classes. But
I hope it goes back to people saying, wow, I had a moment to slow down. Take a second and reflect and line up, which I hated. And there's a lot of that where, they don't get to go in the building, and masks, not masks, all these different things. Like I got to line up next to the garden, have a quick conversation with Robin. I got the okra. And now every Sunday we make something with okra. Like that's what happens next in the work that we're doing, that I really, really hope. And just the connection that people have. Again, they saw the product, they got to talk to you. They got a little confidence in the way to prepare it. They prepared it, and they nailed it. They
right? They nailed it. Exactly.
Or even like okra, just all the excuses I think of, like, yes, if they sit for a while and they're harvested and 2 months later you're eating them, they get kind of mucusy, right?
Yeah,
People
yeah.
know
Oh,
that
that's
more
a
okra.
complaint everybody has. Oh, I don't like okra. It's so, slimy. And I'm like, no, if you eat it with the day it was picked, I just
Yes.
picked it. Or I was like, here, eat it raw. Have you ever eaten okra raw? It is so good. So I
Yes.
just eat it raw in front of them and they're like, whoa. And I'm like, no, it's not slimy, right? Like, see, it's fresh. Fresh food
So
is
good.
totally different from store-bought food. So
So
there you
good.
go.
Robin, amazing conversation. I really, really love
Thanks
the
for
work. I
having
love
me.
how
It was great.
excited you are about it. I love that you're connecting the dots. And I'm telling you, we'll have more conversations, you and I. You are a pure marketer, a
All
pure
right.
storyteller. And I think we need more of that, just recognizing the opportunities that are set in front of us, even if it's something like COVID and not being able to do what you're meant to do in its full capacity. You still took the opportunity to show somebody you could eat raw okra, and that matters. It really, really matters. So thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks.
I appreciate you for being on. You have a great day. Let you go.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right. Robin Clemmons. Great stuff. So important. Just these simple little things, that you guys see me geek out on, where I go down this rabbit hole of okra and how you connect that to somebody and moving the conversation to yes and all the no's and excuses that people have, but just these little interactions and inspiring the kid to eat the chard, to then level that up to their parents. It really, really matters. You figure out a way to do that with 1 kid, 5 kids, 10 kids, a whole class, a whole school, a whole community. That's scalable. I really, really believe there's a way to create this thoughtfulness and these micro interactions that can fuel up to the macro and have a major impact on the way that we look at our food system, the way that we look at feeding our kids, the single most important works that I could imagine. So I really appreciate Robin for being on today. I appreciate this show, this channel. Once again, Best Served Young, where we focus on the humans behind that youth education, school gardens, lunch programs. Again, it really matters. So thanks for watching Best Served Podcast, episode 202. And we were talking feeding more people with Robin Clemmons of the Daystar Life Center. That is it for today. I appreciate you all as always. Thanks everybody for the comments today. Robin has great support already in her community, so I really appreciate seeing that. And I am not surprised at all. Thank you as always for tuning in. Appreciate you.